In a world built on ambition and greed, our story begins not with a bang, but with a silent, creeping realization. It uncovers a hidden chapter in financial history, a story of power, manipulation, and lessons the world refused to learn. From the corridors of Wall Street to the boardrooms where the fates of nations are shaped, this narrative explores the rise, the fall, and the silent consequences that changed how money moves. Every moment builds towards a revelation, how decisions made in the pursuit of profit reshaped entire economies, altered countless lives, and fundamentally redefined the meaning of value itself. As the truth unfolds, one question remains: did we master money, or has money, in the end, mastered us? What if I told you that the world's wealth, the numbers you see on screens, the value of your home, the balance in your retirement account, isn't what you think it is? It's not a measure of tangible progress or genuine prosperity. Instead, it is an elaborate illusion, a grand stage play where the props are made of paper and the actors are reading from a script they didn't write. We live within a meticulously engineered system, one designed not for stability, but for control. The foundation of our modern financial world is not built on solid ground, but on a carefully constructed narrative of deception where the promise of security is the very tool used to ensure our dependence. This isn't a story of random market cycles or unfortunate economic downturns. This is the story of a system built to function exactly as it does, channeling wealth and power into the hands of a select few, while the rest of us play our part in a game we were never meant to win. The illusion of stability is perhaps the most masterful trick ever performed. We are told that our economies are strong, our currencies are sound, and our futures are secure. We see skyscrapers touch the clouds, markets reach new highs, and politicians speak of unprecedented growth. But this apparent strength is a mirage, shimmering in a desert of manufactured liquidity. For decades, governments and central banks have propped up a facade of economic health, not through genuine innovation or productivity, but through the endless printing of money. When the system falters, when the cracks begin to show, the solution is always the same: inject more currency, lower interest rates, and create new credit out of thin air. They call it quantitative easing or economic stimulus, but these are just sanitized terms for a desperate act of life support. The markets, now addicted to this flow of easy money, are no longer a reflection of real-world value. They have become a distorted echo chamber where prices are driven not by supply and demand, but by the relentless intervention of central planners. This creates a false sense of prosperity, a belief that wealth can be summoned from nothing, ignoring the fundamental law of economics, that true value must be created, not printed. This carefully managed illusion keeps the public calm, convincing us that the ship is steady even as it takes on water below the deck. The engine driving this entire apparatus is debt. Our global economy no longer runs on the fuel of productivity and savings. It runs on borrowed time and borrowed money. From the individual swiping a credit card to governments issuing trillions in bonds, debt has become the lifeblood of our system. But this is not a symbiotic relationship. It is a parasitic one. Every dollar created as debt carries with it an obligation of interest, a promise to pay back more than was received. This mechanism ensures that the system must perpetually expand, demanding ever-increasing levels of borrowing simply to service the interest on past debts. It is a mathematical certainty, a spiral that can only lead in one direction. This dependency on debt serves a dual purpose. On the surface, it stimulates consumption and gives the appearance of economic activity. But its deeper, more insidious function is control. When individuals, corporations, and even entire nations are submerged in debt, their autonomy is compromised. They become beholden to their creditors, the very banking institutions and central powers that created the debt in the first place. Every loan granted, every bond issued, tightens the grip of the lender. Debt is not merely a financial tool. It has been weaponized, transforming free markets into a sophisticated system of indenture, where the borrower is perpetually subservient to the lender. We believe we are free. We go to work, earn a wage, and save for the future, operating under the assumption that our efforts will translate into a better life. We trust that the money we set aside today will hold its value for tomorrow. But this belief is the core of the silent trap that has been laid for us. While we are busy living our lives, the very systems we depend on are quietly and methodically draining the value from our labor and our savings. The most effective tool in this process is inflation, the slow, corrosive erosion of purchasing power. Central banks, with their mandates to maintain a healthy level of inflation, are openly admitting to this process. A 2% inflation target means that the value of your money is designed to be cut in half every 35 years. Your savings are not a static store of value. They are a melting ice cube. To stay ahead, you are forced to become a speculator, to risk your capital in the very markets that are manipulated by the system's architects. Your labor becomes less valuable over time, your dreams of retirement recede further into the distance, and your financial security becomes a frantic race against a clock that is deliberately set to run too fast. We are tied to a system that functions like a leaky bucket no matter how much we pour in. Its value is designed to seep away, ensuring we must keep running on the treadmill just to stay in place. This isn't an accident. It's a feature, not a bug. This financial control is cemented by a powerful layer of psychological control. The system does not maintain its power through force alone, but by shaping our perceptions, our emotions, and our understanding of the world. Fear is the primary instrument. The fear of economic collapse is used to justify unprecedented interventions, like bailouts for banks deemed too big to fail. The fear of falling behind financially pushes us to take on more debt and make riskier investments. The fear of unemployment keeps us compliant in our jobs, accepting stagnant wages and diminishing benefits. This constant state of anxiety is amplified by a relentless media narrative that frames the complex workings of the economy in a way that serves the interests of the powerful. Market downturns are blamed on unforeseen events or retail investor panic, while the systemic flaws remain unexamined. Inflation is presented as a mysterious, unavoidable force of nature, rather than the direct consequence of monetary policy. We are kept distracted by political theater, cultural debates, and the trivialities of daily news, while the fundamental structure of our financial enslavement is never brought into the spotlight. The narrative keeps the population obedient and divided, focused on fighting amongst themselves rather than questioning the nature of the arena they are in. We are conditioned to believe there is no alternative, that this is simply how the world works, a form of learned helplessness on a global scale. As we stand at this precipice, looking out at an economic landscape littered with warning signs, soaring debt, rampant inflation, and volatile markets, it's tempting to think that something has gone terribly wrong. It feels as if the complex machinery of the global economy is breaking down, grinding to a halt under the weight of its own contradictions. But perhaps this is the final, most profound illusion of all. Perhaps the system isn't breaking. Perhaps it is not failing. The system isn't breaking down by accident. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. In a world built on ambition and greed, our story now turns from the foundations of a fragile system to the inevitable cracks spreading across its surface. We are not witnessing random acts of misfortune, but the predictable, cascading failures of a design that was always destined to break. The signs are no longer subtle whispers in the halls of finance. They are deafening roars echoing through the lives of everyday people. You see it in the grocery store, as the price of bread and milk climbs relentlessly, a quiet tax on your survival. This isn't just inflation. It's the systematic devaluation of your labor, your savings, your future. It's the consequence of printing trillions of dollars from thin air, a desperate attempt to delay the inevitable by flooding the world with currency that loses its meaning with every new zero added to the global balance sheet. The tremors are felt far beyond the checkout line. Around the world, nations teeter on the brink of default. For decades, they were encouraged to borrow, to build, to dream on the promise of perpetual growth. Now the bill has come due. The interest on this colossal mountain of debt is becoming unpayable, forcing governments to choose between servicing their loans and serving their citizens. The trust that once held this system together, trust in banks, in governments, in the very money in our pockets, is eroding like a coastline pounded by an endless storm. We were told these institutions were pillars of stability, but we are now seeing them for what they have become. Instruments of a debt-based machine, sputtering and seizing under the weight of its own impossible promises. The foundation wasn't just cracked. It was built on sand from the very beginning. As the old world crumbles, those who built it are already laying the blueprints for its replacement. Do not mistake their actions for a rescue mission. It is a calculated reconstruction. The architects of the coming collapse, the central banks and global financial bodies, will not let a crisis go to waste. They will present themselves as the saviors, the calm and steady hands, ready to guide us out of the chaos they helped create. Their solution will be framed as progress, as innovation, as the next logical step in the evolution of money. They will call it a great reset, a necessary modernization to create a fairer, more efficient, and more inclusive financial system for all. Their flagship proposal will likely be central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. On the surface, it will sound appealing. A digital dollar, a digital euro, a digital yuan, directly in your phone, managed by the steady hand of the central bank. They will promise instant transactions, lower costs, and an end to financial crime. But beneath this veneer of convenience lies a mechanism of unprecedented control. Unlike the cash in your wallet, a CBDC is not truly yours. It is a direct liability of the central bank, programmable and traceable. Every transaction you make, every dollar you spend will be recorded on a central ledger. Your money could be given an expiration date to force you to spend it. It could be programmed to prevent you from buying certain goods or services deemed undesirable. In a world of CBDCs, financial privacy would become a relic of the past, and financial freedom would be subject to the whims of a handful of unelected technocrats. This isn't just a new form of money. It's a new form of social control, a digital leash that tethers your economic life directly to the state. The fix they offer is not a fix for you. It is a fix for them, a way to cement their power in the ashes of the old system. While architects of the new order plan their reset from insulated boardrooms, the human cost of the old order's collapse is paid on the streets. It is paid by the factory worker whose job is eliminated as credit markets freeze and businesses shutter. It is paid by the retired couple who watches their life savings, meticulously gathered over 40 years of hard work, evaporate as inflation devours their purchasing power. It is paid by the young family who, despite playing by all the rules, finds the dream of owning a home slipping further and further out of reach, priced out of a market distorted by speculative bubbles. These are not just statistics on a screen. They are stories of broken promises, of lives upended, of faith shattered. The most profound cost is not financial. It is psychological. It is the slow, dawning realization that the system you were taught to trust, the one you built your life around, was never designed for your benefit. The social contract, the implicit agreement that if you work hard, save diligently, and act responsibly, you will have a secure future, has been broken. This betrayal breeds a deep and corrosive cynicism, a loss of faith not just in financial institutions, but in the very idea of a shared society. People begin to feel like pawns in a game they never agreed to play, their destinies dictated by the incomprehensible decisions of a distant and unaccountable elite. The unraveling of an economy is always, at its core, the unraveling of a community. It is the isolation and despair of individuals who feel powerless against forces they cannot control, the quiet suffering of millions who are the first casualties of a crisis they did not create. As we connect the dots, the engineered booms and busts, the relentless accumulation of unpayable debt, and the convenient rise of a technologically enabled control system, a chilling hypothesis emerges. What if this collapse is not an accident? What if the chaos, the fear, and the hardship are not unfortunate byproducts, but deliberate features of a hidden plan? History is filled with examples of elites using crises to consolidate power, to tear down the old order so they can rebuild a new one in their own image. A population that is financially desperate, fearful for its future, and stripped of its assets is far more likely to accept radical solutions it would have rejected in times of prosperity. Consider the endgame, a world where money is no longer a tool for individual freedom, but a mechanism for centralized control. In this new order, your ability to participate in the economy could be tied to your social behavior, your political views, or your compliance with state mandates. Dissent could be silenced not with force, but by simply turning off your access to your own money. The goal is not just wealth, but a new kind of power, the power to manage populations, to shape behavior, and to engineer society from the top down. This collapse, then, is not a failure of the system. It is a transition. It is the demolition phase of a grand reconstruction project, designed to clear the rubble of individual sovereignty and build a new, perfectly monitored, and centrally managed world. The hidden plan is to convince us that the only way to be safe is to be controlled, and that the only way to have security is to sacrifice our freedom. But within every great unraveling lies the seed of a great awakening. The very tools of manipulation and control also serve as a beacon, illuminating the truth for those willing to see it. As the flaws in the official narrative become too glaring to ignore, more and more people are beginning to question, to investigate, and to understand the true nature of the game being played. This is not a partisan awakening confined to one political ideology or another. It is a human awakening, a grassroots realization that the levers of power have been captured by interests that do not serve the people. It is the understanding that true wealth is not found in a digitally printed currency, but in real assets, in tangible skills, in strong communities, and, most importantly, in a sovereign mind. This awakening is the most powerful force in the world because it cannot be co-opted or controlled. It is a shift in consciousness, a decision to reject fear and embrace awareness. Those who undergo this shift are no longer passive victims of circumstance. They begin to prepare, not by hoarding canned goods in a bunker, but by acquiring knowledge. They learn about the history of money, they study the mechanics of sound economics, and they explore alternatives that lie outside the centralized system. They move their savings from depreciating currencies into assets that have held their value for millennia. They build resilient local networks, forging bonds with their neighbors based on mutual trust and shared purpose. They understand that the greatest preparation is not physical, but mental and spiritual. It is the development of a mindset that is adaptable, antifragile, and immune to the propaganda of fear. This is how we rise above the manipulation, not by fighting the old system, but by making it obsolete, by building a better, freer, and more honest one in its place. Every empire collapses not when it is conquered, but when its people finally see the truth. If this exploration of our financial world has sparked your curiosity, make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you will be the first to know when we release our next video. And if you found value in this discussion, please give it a like to help spread this message to others who are also seeking to understand.